Welcome back to Crawford-Clark Close-Up. With the latest of Disney's reinventions from their back catalogue, The Lion King, on release worldwide now, we thought the time was right, as the 1994 original is 25 years young this year, to do a joint review of both that classic from the Disney Renaissance in the 1990s and the new retelling from director Jon Favreau, who already successfully brought The Jungle Book back for audiences in 2016. Let's return to the early 1990s. Disney had had a couple of recent triumphs under their belts, namely Oscar-nominated Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin, released in 91 and 92 respectively, and it was down to the artists working at Disney to decide where their loyalties lay for the next story. A crew would be bringing The Lion King to life for release in 1994, and the rest of the creative team would work on Pocahontas to be released a year later in 1995. In hindsight, those that worked on The Lion King must be thanking their lucky stars that they made the right decision. From that breathtaking opening number, Circle of Life, with the animals gathering below Pride Rock to watch the presentation of new lion cub Simba, with Lee Boehm and Hans Zimmer's stunning score, this is without doubt the strongest and most memorable opening to any Disney film, and it only gets better from here. As the lyric goes in Circle of Life, there's far too much to take in here, which seems to suitably summarise the visuals on offer from the outset. The film boasts one of the strongest voice casts in Disney history, from Jeremy Irons' chilling Scar to Rowan Atkinson's pernickety Zazu, with James Earl Jones being just about the only voice you'd ever want for Mufasa, the King of Pride Rock. The relationship between Mufasa and Simba, father and son, is so nuanced from the very beginning, the dialogue shared between the lions feeling real and emotive, up to the moment they part. The set pieces and songs are all top standard as well, from Simba's I Just Can't Wait to Be King to his first brush with tragedy in the Stampede sequence. Disney always manages to excel in getting the audience to feel. We feel elated for Simba when he realises he must return to Pride Rock to claim his rightful place as king, in the same way that we feel every emotional beat when Simba loses his father and cradles himself within Mufasa's lifeless body. The Stampede and its aftermath is one of the most technically jaw-dropping moments in the film, and still holds up today for its drama and the emotional gut punch. Nathan Lane and Ernie Sabella riff off each other brilliantly as Simba's saviours Timon and Pumbaa as the second act of the film begins, and this is the perfect opportunity to bring out all the vivid colours and humour in the story. More than just light humour, Timon and Pumbaa are great allies to Simba in his transference from childhood to insecure adulthood, who, moreover, decide to join the cause to help Simba and Nala reclaim Pride Rock from Scar. From the brilliant voice cast to the impeccable animation, The Lion King stands head and shoulders above almost every other Disney film. Hans Zimmer's score elevates the material and makes us feel for these characters, in their plight, their pitfalls, and most importantly, their triumphs. On the film's 25th anniversary, The Lion King still has it. From Crawford-Clark Close-Up. With Disney's preoccupation for remaking classics from their back catalogue, it was only a matter of time before their most beloved, The Lion King, would get the same treatment, and who better to climb on board this epic undertaking than the director who reinvented The Jungle Book so successfully, Jon Favreau. It's clear that Favreau has more than a soft spot for the original source material, as his Jungle Book and Lion King are nothing if not extremely faithful to their original counterparts. Unfortunately, if we're comparing the competency of his two retellings so far, The Jungle Book is the true victor, and believe me when I say I wasn't expecting to say this. I was as stunned as everyone else on YouTube with my reaction to the first teaser and the official trailer for this update of The Lion King. They seem to have everything right. Circle of Life looked just as breathtaking as the original, Timon and Pumbaa were realised perfectly, and in a host of new voice talent for this new version of the story, they opened the teaser trailer by reassuring audiences that Mufasa would be voiced once again by the inimitable James Earl Jones. Things were looking very positive. As we drew closer to release and more song clips and TV spots were released, I was starting to have my doubts. The biggest argument is obviously, why remake a classic if you're going to do it shot for shot? How are you going to improve on something that isn't broke in the first place? Then it dawned on me. They're not trying. They're simply trying to update The Lion King for 2019 and show how far technology and visual effects have come in the last quarter of a century. Don't get me wrong, in concurrence with the naysayers of this update, the photorealism and visual effects work on this film is extraordinary. I was blown away by the realism of The Jungle Book 3 years ago, but this really is something else. It's the attention to detail that impresses most in this adaptation, from the rippling water and reflections of other animals to the time giving to setting the mood and the landscape of the savannah. The film is a remarkable visual achievement. Why then does the meat of the story seems so hollow and uninspired? It's as if so much effort was put into making the cinematography and framing of each scene look so extraordinary at the expense of actors' delivery of the dialogue. One of the most disappointing voices this time around, and it actually pains me to say it, is James Earl Jones as Mufasa. It's as if the heart and soul he embedded into the character in the original has just dissipated. When he's cross with Simba for disobeying his orders, you don't buy it from Earl Jones' droll delivery. Neither do you buy Mufasa's urgency to rescue Simba from the charging wildebeest in the stampede, or when he's explaining a king's duty to Simba in the first act of the film. It's a crying shame, and just one of many niggles I had with this film. Similarly, I don't really understand why they changed Scar so much. Jeremy Irons brought a delicious sense of irony and slyness in his interpretation of the character, but most of this has been stripped back with Chiwetel Ejiofor's casting. Even Scar's signature Be Prepared song, performed with relish in the original by Irons, is reduced to a quasi-Shakespearean soliloquy with none of the same urgency in this version. Another issue with the film is its audio editing. There are moments when the characters break into song, but the audio is lowered on the dialogue, making it difficult to catch some important character interactions. The songs themselves, for the most part, transfer across well from the original. Hans Zimmer has clearly worked on revitalised orchestrations of parts of the score this time around with mixed effect. The problem with Circle of Life, for example, this time around, is that the vocal isn't as strong as in the original film, and for some reason they decided with this retelling not to open straight after the Disney logo into the song. That opening note sets the scene spectacularly in the original film, and of course in the Broadway and West End versions, and it's sorely missing here. Underbaked is the adjective I'd use to describe the music as a whole this time around. In fact, the film as a whole. Even Beyoncé and Donald Glover can't improve on the already beautiful Can You Feel the Love Tonight, despite some strong vocals. Despite a lot of negativity, there are some saving graces, and the film really does find its feet once Simba is introduced to Timon and Pumbaa, voiced by the quite brilliant Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen. I was expecting to dislike this pair's reinvention of Timon and Pumbaa, but aside from some riffing and extra humour, they've obviously taken great inspiration from Lane and Sabella, yet made the characters their own. As soon as they arrive on screen, the story seems to find its feet, and for a while, it works very well. The overriding feeling of disappointment as I finish watching the film does make me wonder how many more of the Disney classics are going to be getting the remake treatment. There's no denying that visually this is the most striking 21st century Disney retelling to date, with intricate care taken to make the landscape surrounding these beloved characters look as authentic as possible, but it's sadly at the expense of really emoting these characters. I appreciate it's almost an impossibility to get real animals to emote compared to hand-drawn animation, but I want to be able to cry with Simba when he realises the fate of his father, not wish to just replay the original's superior enactment. Disney's updated The Lion King will doubtless appeal to a new generation of moviegoers, and to those who remember the original and are feeling nostalgic. In no way is this a terrible film, despite all the negative comments I've made. It just feels like Lion King 0.5, like the filmmakers knew whilst making it that there's no way that they can better the original, so they'll just try and mimic the work of the original creative team. If you enjoy this new retelling, what can I say? Good for you. But if I want to rewatch The Lion King in future, I know which version I'll return to time and again. From Crawford-Clark Close-Up. Take a chance on me. Sorry. So, have you had the chance to see both versions of The Lion King? How do you think the two compare? Have we been too harsh on this retelling of the classic story? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this review, please consider subscribing to Crawford-Clark Close-Up at the top of the page. You can also find us on social media. We're on Facebook and Twitter, and you can drop us an email with suggestions for future reviews on the channel to crawfordclarkcloseup@gmail.com. Coming up next, our James Bond retrospective continues with our review of Goldfinger, plus we're looking back at the Matrix trilogy 20 years on from that original movie. Thanks for watching, and until next time, that's a wrap.